Live from News Channel 8, this is Toyota Sports Talk.
Well, how's your team doing? And no, I'm not talking about the Redskins. I'm talking about your fantasy football team. If yours is like mine, then I'm very sorry for you. But if you still have hopes of making the playoffs, then tonight is your night. Give us a call with your lineup questions, both short-term and down the road. Maybe it's time to start thinking about next year. If you're in a dynasty league, we'll give you some tips on players to target down the stretch. Give us a call, 703-387-1020. Oh, boy. Of course, we know fantasy football is just a game, but the moves you make on your fantasy roster are rooted in real life, like trades, matchups, injuries. They all play a factor in who should be in your lineup. Apparently, I can't comprehend that. And to help us sort through all of this is Chris Sheehan. You can hear Chris on WTOP as well as producer for Sirius XM Fantasy. Welcome, Chris. I would ask you to save my fantasy life, but that is so far down in the depths that there is no saving to do. It's just not salvageable.
Well, I'm sorry that you took Frank Gore earlier in the year. You thought he was going to be the bell cow there in Indianapolis, and now Marlon Mack's emerging there, the young kid. And they have no offensive line,
right.
But, you know, you can certainly play daily fantasy sports if you're into that, or join a dynasty league and think ahead to next year. Or you could play maybe fantasy basketball. You into that? Yeah.
No, you know what? Not really. I love basketball, but I was never into, and all my fans, growing up, all my friends, we love basketball, never really did the fantasy basketball thing, nor the fantasy football thing either. But anyway, that's beside the point. So biggest news today, I guess, is Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
He's out for the season. Terrible news for the Texans. If you have Deshaun Watson on your roster, I mean, where do you go from here? I mean, he was having a phenomenal season.
Yeah, it's certainly an issue if you have Deshaun Watson because he's been carrying your team to W's. Where do you go from here? Well, if you're in a shallower league, maybe you'll find a guy like, I don't know, a Ben Roethlisberger type or a Derek Carr. But if you're in a 12, 14-team league, you're going to have to look at guys like Jay Cutler and Joe Flacco this week. I'm starting Jay Cutler in a league. I'm not happy about it off the injury. He loves his little 3-yard passes to the running back, which aren't lighting up the scoreboards. But it's just a tough situation this late in the week past waiver wire to grab anybody that's really going to produce heavily. Like no one's producing like Deshaun Watson did. The guy was just unbelievable off the field and on the field as well this year.
And we just had the quarterback waiver wire up there. You look at that list. I mean, are there any names besides Jay Cutler that you like on that list? I saw Brissett's on that list, and we were just talking about that. I wasn't a big fan of it, but you might like it. You said you like this Brissett.
I like it this week playing he is for the Indianapolis Colts, playing the Houston Texans. Houston letting go of A.J. Bouye, the incredible cornerback who went to Jacksonville and is just doing splendidly. I don't really get that one. Jacoby Brissett can run the football as well as throw it, and this has the potential to be a very high-scoring matchup. Has a very high over-under total, which is something I look at in terms of the Vegas lines. I like Eli Manning as well, as the Rams can be had in the air. Evan Engram, as well as Sterling Shepard, who practiced today, is now back to 100% or at least close to it. Help out in, they lost Odell Beckham Jr., which was a big time. And hopefully you got him out of your lineup.
No, he's still in my lineup, Chris. He is still literally in my lineup.
We're going to get him out, and we're gonna get some replacements for you this week on the waiver wire.
Yeah, and we need to do that big time. So you look at the Redskins, they are annihilated right now.
Yeah.
So many injuries, double-digit injuries. I was at practice the other day. 4 out of their 5 starting offensive linemen off to the side doing individual workouts. You had Trent Williams, you had Brandon Sheriff, you had Spencer Long, Sean Laval. Then you had Jordan Reed over there, one of the best tight ends in the league, and then you had Jamison Crowder. Let's say you got a guy like Jordan Reed, who's out, or a guy like Jordan Reed who's always injured. He's in, he's out. Where do you go from there? Who do you look for?
I like Ben Watson as somebody, if you're kind of scraping the barrel looking for a tight end. Ed Dickson for the Carolina Panthers. He's a former Raven who used to not be able to catch the football whatsoever, has kind of found a little bit of life there in Carolina. It's tough to, and then, certainly Vernon Davis, you see there on the screen on the waiver wire pickups. He's somebody, Seattle pretty good against the tight end. I like Tyler Kroft. Jacksonville, pretty good against the tight end as well. But I think out of this list here mentioned, Ed Dixon against Atlanta Falcons is probably my favorite one, as Cam Newton likes to find him as well. And with Greg Olsen out, he's the #1 tight end there.
What about Eric Ebron? This is a guy who I have, and you didn't like him early in the season.
But I still drafted him because I thought, listen, I had this whole theory. Matthew Stafford gets this humongous contract, so what are they going to have to do? They're going to try and justify that. Have him throw the ball 50 times a game. Hasn't exactly happened, but he does just kind of look elsewhere to his wide receivers, not so much to the tight end. And he likes Fells better than Eric Ebron anyway. Eric Ebron I would drop at this point and look for a streamer. I don't think Ebron's helping you much. There's been a lot of potential about this kid. He's young. He's only like 23 or something like that.
Yeah.
He feels like he's been in the league a lot longer, but he's just not really getting it done.
All right. Chris just making me feel better about my picks every day. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. Paul is in Hyattsville with some questions. Paul, what's up?
All right. No, I just think when you look at, I'm focused on the NFC East. When you focus on the NFC East, you look at the Cowboys, the Eagles. I look at the Cowboys. They stay in good position because you got 3 running backs. Not only that, Alfred Morris still can ball. He can still ball. Then you got McFadden. Then you got the boy Rob Smith, who's a big powerhouse runner, and he's quick. So you got to look at it. The Eagles, they're not running away with it yet. And as far as the Redskins, they need to focus on offense right now. Focus on the offense right now because they need to put up some points. Their defense can maintain, but they need to put up offense.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for calling. The Redskins need to focus on more than just offense. I'll say that much. But he did mention the running back situation for Dallas. Ezekiel Elliott, he has his drama going on.
Yep.
And then we were talking about this in the office about Alfred Morris and Darren McFadden, who, by the way, McFadden is just not really he's not getting a gold star right now.
He's been a healthy scratch in all the games, so why do I all of a sudden think that he's going to come in there and be somebody who's going to be carrying the football 20 times? I think McFadden, over the Ezekiel Elliott suspension, could emerge and start getting some carries. And the caller mentioned, Paul, Rod Smith, the undrafted rookie, or not rookie, but he's been in the league for a little bit, but out of Ohio State. I like him probably the most. He's got the most bang and the most ability to hit the hole with some force.
Yeah.
But I think this week, if you're going to grab one running back for the Dallas Cowboys, it would be Alfred Morris. He is getting the first team reps.
Right.
Jerry Jones has mentioned that all those guys are going to get carries. But to me, I watched Alfred Morris, and he looks like he's got at least a little bit most burst out of any of the running backs, and the Cowboys' offensive line, unlike the Redskins, has been, for the most part, healthy and able to still create holes for Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott, before that suspension, was absolutely going bonkers.
Right.
So you don't think there's going to be too much of a drop-off, but there still will be, considering Ezekiel Elliott's one of the best running backs in the game.
All right, so tell me this. You look at the Redskins, and their run game hasn't been doing well this season.
No.
So running backs waiver wire, I mean, who is someone that you want to, let's say you drafted Rob Kelly. You don't like Rob Kelly anymore.
No.
You don't like what he's doing. Samaj J.P. Ryan, you don't like what he's doing. Who do you look for right now, and as far as running backs go?
I like Alex Collins. I don't see him listed on there, and he might already be taken because, if you're in a deeper league, Alex Collins probably not there, but John Harbaugh, a coach there up in Baltimore, really likes what he sees out of the kid. He runs hard. He had a little bit of a fumbling problem, but appears to be the #1 running back there. But out of this list mentioned, it's Marlon Mack to me.
Yeah.
He's got the ability to catch the football. He's explosive. He's a young kid. And Kenyon Drake will be getting the #1 reps for the Dolphins. I'll say it right now. I've watched Damian Williams enough on this Dolphins team. I don't think he's a very good football player. Yes, he could catch the ball on 3rd down, but I think Drake will show that he is the best running back there in Miami. And I mean, I talked about Jay Cutler starting him if you're desperate. Do you still really think Jay Cutler's that good of a quarterback? Right. They're going to need to rely on the running game a little bit. So I like Kenyon Drake to add as well here. Hopefully, if you're in a short or a smaller team league, he's available.
Please don't say Jay Cutler around me. Being from Chicago. All right, give us a call, 703-387-1020. More questions for Chris. We'll be right here. All right, give us a call, 703-387-1020. We are answering your fantasy football questions. back with WTOP's Chris Sheehan. Let's go straight to the phone lines. Nate is in Northeast right now with a fantasy question. Nate, what's up?
Hey, guys. How's it going tonight?
Good, good. How are you?
I got a question about Deshaun Watson with his injury. How's this going to impact DeAndre Hopkins with his fantasy impact moving forward? Chris, I'd like your opinion.
It's going to severely diminish DeAndre Hopkins' fantasy value.
That's what I figured, man.
That being said, Nate, Tom Savage does like DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins got a ton of targets when Savage was a starting quarterback. Now, we don't know the long term of what Houston's going to do here at the quarterback position. They signed Matt McGloin. There's been rumors about potentially bringing in Colin Kaepernick. We'll see if that happens. But as long as Savage is there, Hopkins does like him. I mean, this just offense is going to become way more anemic with Tom Savage running this offense. Will Fuller takes the worst hit because Deshaun Watson really liked him. Teams are going to focus in on the running game now, and if Houston does play behind, I think Hopkins benefits, but he's dropping on my rankings personally from a week-to-week basis.
Oh, boy. All right.
Okay, good stuff.
Hey, Nate, thank you so much for calling. We appreciate it.
Hey.
So, for anyone who drafted Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's right, good for you. So that's a good thing for people who have Jimmy Garoppolo on their team.
It is in that, if you're in a league that allows for you to have a lot of bench spots, I like it, because I think that eventually they can say whatever they want. The coaching staff, we might not see Jimmy Garoppolo play this year. I don't buy that. If you watch C.J. Beathard play this year, he's been really nothing inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make sure that you focus on the fact that San Francisco is a bad football team. They're going to be behind in a lot of games. So what does that mean? They have to throw the football. Pierre Garçon hurt this week, having a not-so-great year in terms of his production, but still a very solid receiver. I wish he was still here in Washington.
Yeah.
This is a team here in San Francisco that, again, they're trying to rebuild, and if they want to put their focus in on Jimmy Garoppolo, he's our future. Garoppolo looked good in New England. He's got that winning pedigree there. We'll see what he's like outside of the Belichick offense. But if you're able to hang on to Garoppolo, if you're in a league that allows for the bench spots, cool.
Yeah.
Keep holding on to him and see if he does get some playing time.
So we talked about Hopkins and his situation with Deshaun Watson going down. Are there any other options out there at wide receiver that you would like to see people pick up in this situation? Because, I mean, you know Hopkins, like you said, his touches are going to go down.
Sure.
I mean, it's diminish greatly. Who do you go out and look for now?
If Paul Richardson hasn't been added, I certainly like him, the wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks, who had a monster game against the Houston Texans last week. I think that with the addition of Dwayne Brown on that offensive line now, that gives Russell Wilson more time to throw the football. And I think this offense starting to hum a little bit. Plus, they cannot run the ball there in Seattle. You saw that last week, and Pete Carroll talking about, Eddie Lacy's going to get the bulk of our carries this week.
Yeah,
good luck with that. I don't really see that working out too much. So I like Paul Richardson quite a bit. It's Cooper Kupp for the LA Rams. He gets some targets as well. I think he's somebody that you could certainly consider. And on that list there, Corey Davis, coming off the injury. We got to see how much playing time he gets against the Baltimore Ravens. I would stash him on that list there out of all the receivers. First-round talent. Tennessee likes to throw the football. Marcus Mariota is somebody who what I like about Mariota is he can scramble, make plays, kind of like Watson, which would allow Corey Davis, the deep threat, the home run ball, to be somebody who's effective and score points for Tennessee.
All right, so I'll say this. The only other quarterback that I have in my roster is Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
I've started Ben Roethlisberger, but they're playing against Seattle. I'm not sure if I like that, especially when you have guys like Terrell Pryor and Josh Doxson trying to catch your passes. Do you like Kirk Cousins against Seattle?
I do, because I think that they don't have a running game. And you would think if there was ever going to be a week that the Redskins running game does get going, it's against Seattle, as the Seahawks have allowed a lot of rushing yards. They are bottom 10 in terms of their run defense. But, I mean, Rob Kelly's been uninspiring. Samaje Perine is having a hard time adapting to the NFL level. Cousins are going to have to throw the ball, and they'll probably be down too. I mean, Seattle's lost only, I could maybe count on my one hand, maybe two of the last few years that they've lost at home. So that being said, I think Cousins is going to have to throw the ball a lot. I like Josh Doxson this week to kind of supplant some of the targets that Crowder got, and I like Vernon Davis too, because if we've learned one thing, it's that Kirk Cousins loves the tight end position.
Yes.
And with Jordan Reed looking like he's not going to play, Vernon Davis, I think, will get an uptick in targets as well.
All right, can't wait. Again, 703-387-1020. Call us. Chris is here to answer your fantasy questions. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back. Chris Sheehan here, WTOP, answering your fantasy questions. All right, so players that are primed to have a good second half of the season, guys that haven't been so hot for the first half of the season.
Well, a name that I'm kind of looking at right now is Devontae Freeman. He has gotten like 12, and 9 carries, something like that over the past 3 games. He splits time with Tevin Coleman, hasn't been involved with the passing game as much, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Matt Ryan is just not really that good when Kyle Shanahan is not his offensive coordinator. Steve Sarkisian, maybe he should have stayed in college. I'm not really so sure. But, I mean, Devontae Freeman's somebody that when he is in your time for your fantasy playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Those are weeks 14, 15, 16. He takes on the New Orleans Saints twice and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers once. New Orleans Saints defense, 4.9 yards per carry. That is tied for the 3rd worst in the league. Ooh. You may see a disgruntled Devontae Freeman owner in your league saying, I'm not dealing with this timeshare anymore. If you can try and acquire Freeman, it'll pay dividends for you when you're in the playoffs. If you're a team that can afford to maybe make trades and be a little riskier, he is somebody that I certainly like. And Hunter Henry, we talked about him as,
Go Arkansas.
That's right.
Woo Pig Suey.
He's got some nice matchups coming up towards the fantasy playoffs, taking on the Redskins, who allow the most yards to the tight end position in the NFL. They take on the Kansas City Chiefs as well, who are not very good against the tight end. And the New York Jets have allowed the 2nd most amount of touchdowns to the tight end this year, 6 so far. So Hunter Henry more and more involved in that LA passing offense, as Antonio Gates, still there, but not so much a worry to me personally in terms of Henry's targets. I think Philip Rivers really likes him, and he's willing to catch the football, as you see in the graphic, over the middle of the field and get a little dirty. So I like Hunter Henry's targets as somebody that he might be on your waiver wire in a very shallow league. People staying away from him because sometimes he puts up duds, but he does have the potential there because LA likes to throw the ball and run it.
Yeah. A guy that's on my roster, Ben Roethlisberger, a guy that I thought was going to be solid throughout the entire season, didn't happen. So this guy's primed for a good second half, though.
Yeah, and you talk about his first half of the season. I remember that game against Jacksonville, what a dud that was. That was my stone-cold lock of the week. That was not. But Ben Roethlisberger in the fantasy playoffs, home against Baltimore, home against New England, on the road against Houston. We've talked about how bad Houston's secondary is, so I don't mind that he's on the road there. He's notoriously much better at home. But home against Baltimore, they have a good secondary, but past couple of times he's played the Ravens at home, he's done okay. And home against New England, the defending Super Bowl champions are not good at defending the pass. And again, we talk about this all the time, Patriots are a team that will probably be up in the game, so you're going to be forced to throw the ball. When you have Antonio Brown, you have Le'Veon Bell, you have Juju Smith-Schuster, who has emerged. Those are all recipes for success, and I think Ben Roethlisberger, whether or not this is his last year, I almost like it if it is his last year because he's going to leave it all on the field, you'd think. But I like Ben Roethlisberger down the stretch with those matchups.
So a guy like me, I'm like Owen forever.
Sure.
Is there any chance for me to come back and win my league? No. It can't be.
Well, it really all depends on how many teams make your playoffs. Say you're in a 10-team league and 6 teams make the playoffs. You're going to probably have some losing records in there. But, Robert, I want to stress to you that, you want to win a couple of games. You want to not be remembered as the guy who didn't win any games in the fantasy league. So, hit that waiver wire. The thing about winning in fantasy football, and I'm guilty of this sometimes myself, life gets in the way. You don't make the proper waiver wire pickups before the deadline, and then you miss out on some guys. But, if you're on a Monday night chilling, watching Monday Night Football, start thinking about it and put in some claims.
Except for when you have a sinus infection. All right, we're going to go to a break. Mary, Stay with us. We're going to take your call right after this. All right, welcome back. Let's get right to it. Mary from Virginia has a question about the Redskins. Yes?
Yes, and just first, I love Chris on there. He's so knowledgeable.
He is.
Talking about Dodson earlier from the Redskins. All right, should I go Crowder or Dodson? All of my other wide receivers are filled, but Dodson's available. Should I grab him or not?
Yes.
And drop Crowder?
I would be okay with that, especially since the news I'm hearing about Jamison Crowder today is that it's not looking all that great that he will play. His body took a beating as he hauled in a lot of catches in that Cowboys game. But to me, Josh Doctson is developing that rapport with Kirk Cousins. And one thing that I like about Doctson, when it's near the red zone, he's not afraid to go up and get it. I hate that fade route sometimes that teams like to run in the end zone. But if there's a guy that I feel comfortable about going up and getting the football, it's Josh Doctson. I watched this kid at TCU. He's got a ton of talent, just young in this league, and he's a good player.
And he can leap, too. Mary, thank you so much for calling. And thank you, Chris, for being on the show tonight. Love it when you're here. Like Mary said, you are very knowledgeable.
Thank you. We're going to get you a win this year, I promise.
I hope so. I hope so. And you're winning for watching us tonight. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk.